Jasmine Crockett encountered one of the toughest attacks of her public career. But instead of letting it shake her, she transformed the moment into a lesson about courage, truth, and dignity. One that would stay with viewers long after the debate ended. It was a cool evening in Washington, and the atmosphere was full of anticipation. Inside a well-lit television studio, people took their seats, cameras adjusted their focus, and quiet conversations filled the air. This program was expected to be one of the most viewed debates of the season. On one side stood President Donald Trump, a figure whose presence often dominated any room. On the other stood Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a rising voice known for her sharp thinking and calm approach. The tension in the studio was noticeable. While everything looked organized and professional, the energy was far from calm. Trump had built much of his public style on being confrontational, using bold language to take control of conversations. Many wondered if he would attempt the same strategy tonight. Jasmine, however, was recognized for being detail-oriented and steady, someone who maintained her ground even when challenged. This debate was set to be more than a policy discussion. It was a test of composure, strategy, and intellect. As the debate officially began, cameras captured the audience, reporters with notepads ready, commentators leaning forward to catch every moment. Jasmine opened confidently. She spoke clearly, her tone steady, and every point she raised was supported by specific examples. She addressed major national issues, outlining policies, their results, and how they affected communities across the country. Her delivery was deliberate and well-prepared. She didn't rush. She allowed each point to land with clarity. Her composed, factual approach stood in contrast to the fiery, unpredictable style many expected from Trump. Even in her opening remarks, Jasmine signaled that she wasn't there to be distracted or unsettled. She had prepared carefully, aware of the stakes. Her confidence wasn't loud. It came from knowledge and focus. The audience quickly sensed that this debate was not like others. This was a moment where facts and reasoning would be tested against unpredictability, and Jasmine was determined to stay grounded. Trump's opening tone was, as expected, forceful. His comments were broad, filled with strong claims about the country's direction. His delivery demanded attention, and for a moment it seemed the room leaned in with him. Yet Jasmine remained composed. She listened carefully, choosing her moments to respond and refusing to react impulsively. Her patience appeared intentional, earning the quiet respect of those watching. As the debate continued, Jasmine settled into a rhythm, presenting facts one by one, showing her grasp of policy details. She explained how certain decisions affected everyday people, linking data to relatable examples. Each point was easy for viewers to understand, even those not deeply familiar with political debates. She was determined to keep the focus on substance, not distractions or personal disputes. The contrast between the two candidates was clear. While Trump leaned on strong statements and dramatic delivery, Jasmine stayed focused on clarity, logic, and evidence. The tension in the room grew subtly. Trump was known for pushing boundaries, seeing how far he could challenge his opponents. But Jasmine's steadiness made it obvious that she was prepared for whatever might come. She wasn't simply reacting. She was guiding the direction of the exchange. Beyond politics, there was something compelling about Jasmine's presence. It wasn't only her knowledge, but the way she carried herself. She held attention without demanding it, engaging the audience with calm authority. People noticed her eye contact, her thoughtful pacing, and her tone, which remained serious without hostility. It reminded viewers that confidence doesn't always require volume. Sometimes quiet steadiness is more powerful. The audience, initially expecting a loud clash, began noticing the emerging pattern. Instead of chaos, there was a controlled, almost tense rhythm. Jasmine steered the conversation with facts, while Trump's energy hovered, waiting for a reaction. This was a rare moment in modern politics, an encounter where preparation and composure met unpredictability. By the end of the first segment, Jasmine had clearly made an impact. She showed she could stand firm under pressure. Viewers both in the studio and at home recognized that this was more than a routine debate. It was an unfolding story of strategy, presence, and character. Jasmine Crockett had already shown that she was ready for any challenge that came next. The room seemed to understand that the debate was about to move beyond policy and into more uncertain territory. And in that moment, all eyes shifted toward her, waiting for what would follow. The debate had been moving smoothly. Jasmine had positioned herself as a strong, composed voice, confident, precise, and deeply prepared. Her arguments were landing effectively, and the audience was recognizing the depth of her work. For a moment, it appeared the exchange would stay centered on policy issues, data, and their effects on Americans. But then something changed. Trump spoke again, but this time his tone shifted. Instead of responding to policy, he made a personal remark. It wasn't explicitly political. It was directed at Jasmine herself. Framed as a question, the comment carried a sharp edge, clearly intended to provoke. He referenced her appearance, pointed at her skin tone, and even questioned whether she was fully American. The room froze. The quiet attentiveness turned into stillness. People exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of how Jasmine might respond. Some felt the tension tighten around the debate. It was the type of comment that could throw even an experienced speaker off balance. Trump had attempted to shift the debate from issues to a personal trap. Jasmine's reaction, however, was composed. She didn't flinch, raise her voice, or interrupt. She let his words hang there. Her pause was not hesitation. It was intentional. Viewers could see she was organizing her thoughts, turning the moment into something she could use rather than something that could derail her. That pause held power. It made Trump's words sit plainly in the air, revealing their purpose. The audience could sense that she understood exactly what was happening, that his words were designed to distract and undermine her credibility. Yet she stayed calm, allowing the insult to weaken on its own. It seemed Trump expected a different reaction. Anger, defensiveness, or a loss of composure. But Jasmine stayed steady, showing viewers that insults didn't require emotional retaliation. Her silence was not passive. It was controlled. She was demonstrating that strength isn't always in matching tone, but in choosing how to respond. The power dynamic began to shift. By not reacting impulsively, Jasmine moved the focus away from his comment and toward her upcoming response. The audience leaned in, sensing that she was preparing to turn the moment around. It was a subtle reminder that in high-pressure situations, the calmest person often maintains control. When she finally prepared to speak, Jasmine shaped her response around truth and clarity. She recognized the underlying tactic, an attempt to cast doubt on her identity. But instead of returning an insult, she chose to highlight the inconsistency behind the attack. Her deliberate pause made it clear she was responding thoughtfully, not emotionally. The debate now carried a deeper layer. Viewers realized this was no longer just about policy. It touched on identity, perception, and the impact of staying calm under pressure. Trump had tried to shift the conversation, but Jasmine was already redirecting it toward a larger point. By the time she began speaking again, the room's energy had changed. People weren't waiting for a typical rebuttal. They were waiting for something grounded in intelligence, clarity, and authority. Jasmine was about to show that even in the face of unexpected attacks, it was possible to maintain composure and turn the moment into an opportunity for insight. Her response didn't simply address the jab. It introduced a broader truth that would reshape the conversation and leave a lasting impact far beyond the debate itself. The tension in the room was heavy. Trump's remark lingered like a shadow, and everyone waited to see how she would continue. She paused again, ensuring her words would matter. When she finally spoke, her response was measured, intentional, and impactful. She began by addressing the comment directly, then shifted toward something deeper, truth and transparency. She revealed that she had obtained a DNA report, acquired through legal and investigative means. The audience leaned forward. Her wording was exact. She made clear that this wasn't rumor or speculation, but a verified document considered credible. What followed surprised everyone. Jasmine explained that the report included unexpected family connections related to Barron Trump. Without mentioning unnecessary names, she noted that the findings raised serious questions about identity and transparency, suggesting that President Trump and Ivanka were connected in ways not fully acknowledged. The disclosure was sharp, subtle, and deliberate. It wasn't a typical attack. It reflected back the very questions about identity that Trump had just directed at her. The impact was immediate. A quiet reaction moved through the room. People in the studio, and those watching at home, felt the shift. Trump had attempted to undermine Jasmine by questioning her background, but she redirected the discussion completely. The focus turned away from her and onto the inconsistencies and unanswered questions surrounding the president himself. Jasmine's tone remained calm and steady as the weight of her statement settled in. She didn't rely on loud claims or theatrics. The information spoke for itself. By presenting documented evidence and positioning it carefully, she showed that confidence isn't about aggression. It comes from clarity and composure. Even while facing a personal high-profile attack, she managed to regain control of the conversation without compromising professionalism. What made the moment especially notable was her subtle style. She didn't exaggerate the report or make emotional accusations. Instead, she allowed the facts to guide the audience toward the implications. Her strategy depended on framing. She didn't attack Trump directly but reflected the irony of questioning her identity while carrying unresolved issues of his own. By the time she finished, the direction of the debate had changed entirely. What began as a personal insult became a discussion centered on truth, transparency, and responsibility. Jasmine turned what could have been a vulnerable moment into an opportunity to raise broader concerns. Issues beyond one debate or one individual. The narrative shifted to integrity and the expectations placed on those in power. The audience's reaction was measured but meaningful. There was no instant applause. The moment was too unexpected, too significant. Yet there was a clear recognition of her skill. People understood that she had not only defended herself but elevated the overall dialogue. She transformed a tense and potentially harmful exchange into an example of intelligence, strategy, and restraint. Even critics of her politics found the moment difficult to dismiss. Jasmine demonstrated a rare ability to handle a high-stakes confrontation with both tact and strength. Through verified evidence and careful framing, she showed how personal attacks can be addressed not with retaliation, but with insight. Her response also carried a broader message. In a time when many public figures deflect or distract with volume rather than substance, Jasmine reminded viewers that facts, clarity, and strategy carry more influence. She took charge of the debate without losing credibility or composure. It was a moment that resonated with anyone who has faced unfair criticism. She showed that when your identity is challenged, preparation and integrity become powerful defenses. More than that, she proved that a personal confrontation can be reframed into a larger conversation about accountability, honesty, and transparency. Qualities necessary in leadership and in everyday life. As the tension in the room shifted from disbelief to reflection, it became clear that she had achieved more than a strong comeback. She had redirected the debate, creating space for a meaningful discussion. Her credibility strengthened. She showed that influence doesn't come from speaking the loudest, but from presenting truth with confidence. Her comments also posed an unspoken challenge. By addressing identity and transparency indirectly, she encouraged a universal standard. If such questions can be raised about her, they should apply equally to those at the highest levels of leadership. Her revelation wasn't limited to one individual. It was about fairness, consistency, and the principles that guide public responsibility. By the time she concluded, the room felt transformed. The discussion had moved far beyond simple exchanges of criticism or policy points. It had become a conversation about truth, responsibility, and accountability. Jasmine took a moment that could have weakened her and turned it into a lesson in strategy, composure, and resolve. She didn't just defend herself. She reshaped the entire dialogue. And for those paying close attention, it was a moment that would remain significant long after the debate, illustrating how preparation and steady decision-making can turn even the sharpest attack into an opportunity to guide the narrative. The room fell silent after Jasmine's statement. The DNA report, her calm presentation, and the strategic way she described it lingered like a spark, ready to ignite a wider conversation. For the first time that night, Trump appeared unsettled. His usual confidence, his ability to control a room, gave way to hesitation, a brief uncertainty that did not go unnoticed. He struggled to respond. Normally he would fire back immediately with strong remarks, but this situation was different. Jasmine had shifted the focus from her identity to the broader issue of truth and transparency. Her words revealed a vulnerability. Not in her, but in him. For several moments, he seemed to search for a way forward, unsure how to regain control of the narrative. Jasmine, recognizing this, didn't rush to fill the silence. She allowed the pause to carry meaning. The audience understood the importance of the moment. The debate had moved beyond a personal exchange. The subject was now accountability, honesty, and the standards expected of public leaders. When Jasmine spoke again, she did so with precision. She emphasized that if questions about identity could be directed at her, then the same expectations should apply universally, including to those in the highest positions. Without directly criticizing Trump, She exposed the irony of a leader questioning someone else's identity while having unresolved uncertainties within his own family narrative. Her approach was intentional. She demonstrated that true credibility comes from consistency and transparency, not authority or rhetoric. The shift was clear. What began as a personal jab became a broader reflection on leadership. The audience saw that this wasn't about typical political debate. It was about integrity. Jasmine had taken control, proving that leadership requires honesty, responsibility, and the ability to face scrutiny without deflecting. Trump, visibly affected, attempted to recover. He responded, but his usual assertive style no longer matched the calm confidence Jasmine displayed. Her response reframed the entire exchange, turning an attack into an invitation to examine the standards of public accountability. It wasn't limited to this debate or this moment. It highlighted how leaders must be responsible for the truths they present and the inconsistencies they leave unaddressed. The tension in the room shifted again. Reporters and viewers realized the implications extended far beyond the evening's discussion. Jasmine had shown that even the most aggressive personal challenges can be neutralized with preparation, clarity, and composure. More importantly, she had proven that a moment intended to undermine her instead became an example of leadership and integrity. It also revealed something about power dynamics. Trump had depended on intimidation and abrupt tactics meant to unsettle his opponents. But Jasmine not only endured the pressure, she redirected it. She made it clear that the priority should be truth, not who can raise their voice first or respond the quickest. By guiding the conversation, she turned what could have been a moment of weakness into a display of authority and credibility. As the debate continued, the wider impact became obvious. What Jasmine accomplished wasn't simply a personal victory. It became a lesson for everyone watching. Leadership, she showed, is not about overpowering others or avoiding criticism. It relies on transparency, consistency, and the willingness to answer tough questions honestly. This moment emphasized the importance of evaluating leaders not only by their words, but by what they choose to reveal or hide. The audience could sense the shift. What started as tension and conflict became a moment of reflection. The focus was no longer on who delivered the personal attack or how it landed. It turned into a deeper discussion. The responsibility leaders have to maintain honesty, accountability, and integrity. Jasmine shifted the conversation from a private insult to a public dialogue about values that impact everyone. Even viewers who disagreed with her politically could see the strength of her approach. By remaining composed, presenting verifiable information, and shaping her response carefully, she turned a personal attack into a meaningful and educational point. This wasn't about winning a debate in the usual sense. It was about demonstrating leadership through calm thinking, steadiness, and moral clarity. As the discussion progressed, the tone completely changed. The audience stopped waiting for quick comebacks or heated exchanges. They began listening to the substance of what Jasmine emphasized. Her approach reminded everyone that integrity matters, transparency is essential, and leaders remain accountable whether they welcome it or not. The debate shifted into a reflection on truth, identity, and responsibility. Jasmine's actions showed that genuine power isn't always loud. It can be quiet, intentional, and rooted in principles. In one carefully measured reply, she moved the conversation from personal remarks to societal reflection, highlighting the broader importance of honesty, accountability, and leadership. By the end of this exchange, it was clear that Jasmine Crockett had achieved something uncommon. She not only defended herself, she elevated the entire discussion. She demonstrated that in challenging moments, when words are designed to harm, you can still respond in a way that is strong and constructive. Her response became a lesson in strategy, character, and the value of keeping integrity centered in leadership. The impact of that moment would last well beyond the studio. It reshaped perceptions, challenged assumptions, and left a reminder of how personal attacks can be turned into meaningful conversation. Through composure, insight, and courage, Jasmine shifted the narrative, proving that true influence comes not from aggression but from clarity, honesty, and principled action. As the debate neared its end, the atmosphere shifted from tension to thoughtful reflection. The conversation that began with policy, shifted into personal remarks, and evolved into a discussion on transparency, truth, and accountability. Jasmine Crockett had not only defended herself, she reshaped the dialogue entirely, transforming a potentially divisive moment into one of insight and consideration. Her closing remarks were intentional and steady. She spoke to both the studio audience and viewers at home in a tone that was firm yet approachable. She reminded them that moments like this extend beyond politics. They reflect how we judge leadership, integrity, and responsibility. To her, the debate represented a broader principle: the importance of honesty in those who hold influence. Leadership, she stated, is not measured only by visible actions or statements. It is measured by consistency, transparency, and the willingness to address difficult questions without deflecting or hiding behind distractions. She pointed out that personal attacks, no matter how sharp or public, often serve as distractions from real issues. What matters most is how the person being targeted responds. Jasmine's own response had been calm, strategic, and based on truth. She showed that it is possible to take control of a narrative without reacting with anger or insult. For viewers, it became a lesson that reaches beyond politics. In daily life, work, and personal relationships, reacting with clarity and steadiness can turn tough situations into opportunities for growth and influence. Jasmine also encouraged viewers to analyze the information they hear and the claims made by public figures. She urged them to ask questions, check facts, and avoid being influenced by appearances or loud statements. Integrity, she reminded them, is not optional for leaders. It is essential. Those in power are responsible for what they choose to share and what they choose to withhold. By grounding her response in verified information, she set a standard for accountability that extended beyond the stage. Her message was not about demanding agreement or political loyalty. Instead, it appealed to universal principles. She explained that holding leaders accountable is not about partisanship. It is about fairness, transparency, and respect for truth. By urging leaders to honor these standards, she encouraged viewers to reflect on what kind of society they want. One where honesty and integrity matter more than presentation or empty rhetoric. Jasmine also spoke about the courage needed in these moments. She acknowledged that facing personal attacks, especially publicly, is never simple. But she used that challenge to teach others. Courage is not the absence of fear or conflict. It is the ability to stay composed, think clearly, and respond in a way that strengthens one's position. This message applied not only to politicians, but to anyone facing criticism, unfair treatment, or difficulty. The audience could feel the sincerity in her words. She wasn't seeking applause or validation. She wanted viewers to take away something meaningful. She described leadership not as a title or platform, but as a responsibility, a commitment to uphold truth, transparency, and ethical conduct. These qualities mattered far more than personality, style, or the ability to dominate a conversation. Through her own example, she showed that real leadership is rooted in integrity and character. By the conclusion of her remarks, Jasmine had turned the moment into a point of reflection. She encouraged viewers to reconsider how they assess those in power and to think about what standards should guide leadership. She invited thoughtful discussion about identity, honesty, and accountability. Her core message was clear. Leaders are responsible not only for what they say and do, but for the truths they uphold, the consistency of their words, and the example they set. What made her closing especially compelling was how universal it was. Though the debate began as a clash between two public figures, Jasmine turned it into a lesson for everyone. Her steady, strategic response showed that integrity and clarity are powerful tools that can shift a conversation, earn respect, and encourage reflection. The moment wasn't about scoring points or embarrassing an opponent. It was about using a difficult moment to highlight what matters in leadership. In the final moments, the impact of her approach became unmistakable. She took a tense personal situation and turned it into a chance for the audience to rethink their expectations of leadership. By raising issues of identity, transparency, and accountability, she elevated the standards by which public figures should be judged, not only by their immediate words, but by the truths they stand by and the behavior they model. As the Debate ended. It was evident that Jasmine Crockett's response left a lasting mark. She showed that composure, preparation, and principled action hold more weight than loud comments or sharp accusations. More importantly, she reminded viewers that a leader's true strength is measured not by their ability to dominate a discussion, but by their ability to stay honest, transparent, and steady under pressure. The night closed with reflection, leaving viewers with a clear message. Accountability and courage are essential, and the real test of leadership lies in truth, consistency, and the ability to approach challenges with intelligence and poise. Jasmine's closing message turned what could have been another heated debate into a moment of meaningful insight, one that would stay with audiences long after the lights went out.